and we have 4 brilliant speakers and me. So we'll have about 2 questions for each of them. One thing I really would like to do is have you guys be engaged. I know that it's a college day and you're all here because you have come here. So why don't you actually participate, because it's very rare to get so many brilliant people on one stage. So use the opportunity. So we'll start out with this entire premise of this conversation. So, we all know, you've heard from all of us about how the job landscape is changing and what does actually being employed mean, what actually having a job. So in all this, we are talking about the disruption that is caused by COVID, the disruption that is caused by automation, and these two are the ones which are actually reshaping work and skills that are needed across industries and markets. So we are seeing a lot of demand for digital jobs. Number one, mainly Elon Musk does not agree with digital jobs. We all know what, right? You guys saw that post from him, didn't you? Did you guys see it? Yeah. So Elon Musk does not agree, but there are a lot of employees, a lot of jobs that can be done from anywhere because it brings a lot of inclusion in terms of geography, in terms of gender, in terms of, if somebody is challenged also, they can also be a part of a much bigger thing without having to move anywhere. So we are seeing a lot of demand for digital jobs in emerging areas. IoT, which I don't consider it as emerging, it is already emerged. So we are talking about entities like cybersecurity, AI, the DL domain, the deep learning domain. Actually, that is something that we are looking at. So with all these changes that are happening, how are higher educational institutions, such as Anurag or Geetam, are actually preparing? And what are the areas that we all need to focus on? And what are the leading universities, such as Anurag and Geetam and so many more? And Coursera, which is the world's biggest university, I presume. What are all these entities doing to stay ahead and make sure that India does not just become a job seeker, but also a job creator? To that end, let's start out with the first question. So I'll start with Ramachandram sir, with you. First of all, sir, do you actually think it is important for higher educations to respond to the evolving job market in India and the world? And a lot of times we actually do hear that employers are looking for future-ready skills from college. Yeah, we always hear, because we work with a lot of companies, whenever we go abroad and we try to promote Telangana as a destination, one of the biggest factors that any company is looking for is employable skills. So in that regard, sir, how do you think higher education and institutions need to respond to the changing job landscape? And should curriculum be evolving really fast? How are you actually tackling that?
Good morning to all of you. My take on change that is expected from these universities is as follows. Universities have been so far are basically known as knowledge centers. Now we want them to become not only knowledge centers, skill centers, you want them to become innovation centers. So this is a fact actually. So how do you bring this change? In fact, the speakers since morning, they have been motivating our students, that's fine. But then how do you bring about the change? That's a big question mark. Yeah, the change has to be driven by the faculty members. That's one of the important factor actually. So they have come from a traditional system, but then provide all these things. Okay, so obviously bring the change in the faculty members in terms of giving inputs to them and then training them, and then first they should be adopting the change. That's the first thing actually. The second thing, of course, in the morning they have listed which are current and trend. We all know that actually. So all the faculty members, they know, and this trend is open everywhere actually. It is not only confined to just Anurag University. Every university knows, what are the subjects that should be taught and so on. So, but then, the faculty members have to drive the change. So they have to actually first, ready for the change. We have to create that environment actually, where these faculty members adopt quickly and then get ready for that. So that is the first thing. Of course, we have been working on our curriculum. We are aligning our, theory with the practicals, and that's do the same thing that I have been all the while, because we have to make them skill-based. That's what we are saying. So, of course, engineering course programs are skill-based by definition, but then the emphasis was not there. Now that there is a lot of emphasis on that, And obviously, we have to change the environment in terms of laboratories, in terms of industry relationships, in terms of internships, because we are incorporating that actually. And of course, we want them innovation centers. Okay, how does this happen actually? We have to create an ecosystem environment where our students will be able to express their ideas, experiment their ideas. Yeah, this is a question we have to put ourselves. Do we have that kind of environment? You know, what is that we need to do quickly? These students will be able to, their ideas, they experiment on that, talk to the faculty members freely, right? The faculty members also, you know, should encourage these students, listening to all these gentlemen saying that, you know, you should express yourself and you should be self-motivated and self-directed. That's fine, but then you have to create that kind of environment. It is the universities that they have to bring this change. Okay, it will not just come just like that by listening to these lectures. I'm telling you, change has to come. Then you have to work. This is a message to all the universities, right? And only then we can go forward. So that's my take on this.
Thank you so much, sir. Sudhir sir, as a Dean for Academics and Planning, taking on from what VC sir spoke about, skill-based training, faculty adaptation, innovation culture, and also this open environment that we are speaking about. What is your take on how should educational institutions actually adapt, and how are you doing it at Anurag?
Sure, thank you. Good afternoon to all. Typically, I'll be focusing on three important aspects. Number one is, how was the job market earlier? How is it now? How that we can predict in the future. Second point is, what is that the role an academic institution has to play in terms of enriching their curriculum, training the students, enablement of the faculty members, and setting up of the best-in-class infrastructure. And number three, as a student, what is my role? How do I adopt all these kinds of changes? These are the 3 points that I will be covering. To start with the point number one, I always believe that Y2K, year 2000, was the biggest challenge in the market and the biggest influencer for the information technology and IT-enabled services. Before 2000, there were only one kind of jobs or hardly two types of jobs. Everybody used to hard code. So if I want to write a COBOL program, I need to write 100 lines of code for a small kind of application. If I wanted to perform some kind of functional aspects, I have to use either Lisp or Prolog kind of programming languages. Very less or no graphical user interface was there before 2000. And after 2000, what happens? The Microsoft has given us a wonderful operating system, the Windows, and followed by the Adobe and other top class product developers. They have given us too many types of tools and the products. The job scenario has changed. From a hard coder to a software engineer, from a software engineer to an analyst, a database administrator, a tester, and soon after, say from 2010, there was a huge revolution in terms of e-commerce business. Before 2010, there was no Amazon, there was no Flipkart, there was no e-commerce business at all. But after that, new jobs were created. A service associate, a product associate, customer care executive, and whatnot, everything. And if you look at today, in 2020, all these jobs were replaced with the robots. This is all because of the automation. This is all because of the industry has moved towards Industry 4.0. Everything is through robots. Everything is through right mixing of the computational technologies with the electronics and electrical related kinds of things. So that means there is a role now as an engineer. You have to, one student has to adopt to learning into multiple domains. Multiple domains, I mean, you are not just be as a programmer. You can be a designer, you can be a fabricator, you can be a kind of tester. So you have to be various kinds of roles, then only your job will be protected. And the second point of my talk was, the second thing is about how is that we can predict for 2025 or 2030. Imagine 2025, all these jobs will be vanished. Whatever the jobs before 2000 were there were vanished in 2020 to 2000 to 2020. The same way, whatever the jobs that are exist today from 2010 to 2020 will definitely be vanished. All these customer service executives, e-commerce business and everything, they have deployed their own robots. The moment you enter into one of the websites, then automatically it says, hello, how are you? How may I help you? What do you want me? How do you want me to assist? All these are questions you can see from a chatbot kind of application. So everything will be replaced by the technology. So we must be abreast with the technology day by day, and we need to focus on more aspects of the learning and understanding. I was reading to one of the news article a couple of months back. No code. Software engineer's role is going to be a no code role in the coming years. So you need not to be worried about I'm not a good coder and how would I place into multiple companies. There are some tools that are already existing in the market, and that really change your life. And Tesla is coming up with automated cars. You don't need even a driver, and automatically you can say few instructions and automatically it will run on its own. And when you say stop, it will stop. When you say start, it will start. That's it. So there are few areas where different domains, where different portfolios, definitely there must be some kind of change that you can see. But there are few areas which you cannot see any kind of change. That is education sector. You cannot replace a teacher with a robot. Healthcare sector, you cannot replace a doctor with any of the robot. And hospitality sector, you cannot replace the hospitality sector with any robot kind of thing. So there are few areas which are emerging again finally, but they need to be blended with different kinds of technologies and other aspects. The third very important point, what is my role as a student? Anurag University has been in front line of all kinds of changes, because we always think of what happened with Kodak, what happened with Konica. They are the famous photographic roll kind of companies. They were nowhere exist in the market today. So what is our role by looking at, keeping at these kind of drastic challenges which are happening across the globe? I want to tell you one example, and with evidence-based kind of support for that. 2015 we changed our curriculum with reference to the different kind of changes that the national education policy was suggested and other kinds of aspect. We brought into the concept called as choice-based credit system. The choice-based credit system, we have given a freedom to the student to complete the courses little early before the completion of 8th semester. They can complete within 7th semester or even 6 semesters, and they can go to any industry to take up kind of internships or job-oriented opportunities. You see, 2015-19 batch, the 50% surge for the placements. Till 2018, we used to get 100 of placements or 550 placements. From 2019 batch, if you see, 900 plus 50 placements. 2020, it was 1200. 2021, it has gone to 1800. Now 2100. So that's how the shift that we have created in Anurag University. So that really added value to our flexible system. And another point I wanted to mention you, that it is not fully flexible. Now we are working towards making it as a fully flexible curriculum system. So we will display the list of courses, and it is your responsibility to choose in which domain that you wanted to deep dive into. Also entered into the kind of honors and minors program from the last academic year, and through which we are encouraging the students to get into your own interested discipline. Not just like I joined in mechanical engineering, I have to end up with mechanical engineering kind of job. So it is for a mechanical engineer to deep dive into robotics, to get into the computer science, to get into the artificial intelligence, to get into the data science or the cyber security and whatnot, everything.
Thank you, Sudhir sir, for the amazing initiatives that are taken, and you're actually bringing power back into the students' hand. And guys, you have to make note that when Tesla is building a driverless car for India, it creates immense jobs for all of us. Because if they can build a driverless car for India, they've actually cracked, I don't know, every kind of puzzle that exists for the humanity. So let's work at those future jobs. Now coming down to, thank you, Sudhir sir. So it's amazing. So one request to Sudhir Garu and also VC sir and also Anurag here is that as you publish the placement numbers, I think, again, product placement from the Telangana innovation ecosystem, I think you should also publish the data of the students who've actually gone on and pursued something which is not a job. I think that is what is going to make sure that more and more students can pursue the path that is being laid out by Sudhir sir is saying, flexible with options, but what next? So you can track and scale and inspire more people. So it'll be great. Thank you so much for that brilliant thing, Sudhir Garu. Next thing, Ochesi, now we'll go to Pushkar. So Pushkar, we heard a lot about what has been done by Anurag University, both from BC sir as well as Sudhir sir, who is the Dean of Academic Planning. So how is actually Coursera doing, because you're a digital platform, how are you actually helping institutions prepare their students for, I will not say digital roles, but jobs of the current and the future? And I will not even say jobs, but the careers, or how do they actually add value in their professional sphere? How are you actually preparing or working with colleges on that?
So I think, to start with, Coursera for Campus essentially was, born in 2019. It is actually a dissemination of the work that we've done with corporations. So with corporations, we started working in 2015. What we learned through our work, there is a lot of readiness level, work that corporations do for their, new hires when they come into the, ecosystem. So we realized that there was a gap the freshers were bringing in, and hence we started our work with Manipal as one of our first customers to understand, is there a valid need or is there a gap which Coursera can support through our experiences with corporations. So that's how the work started in 2019. Until now, I think we now have about 80 to 100 institutions, not just in India, but APAC, a lot more globally, where institutions are actually, kind of trying to work with Coursera on several aspects. One of the key aspects, is also faculty development. How do you actually prepare faculty for the disciplines of the future? So one, there is something called as digital literacy. What does it mean to be in a digital transformative world, right? What does it really mean for me as a faculty? So how can I teach digitally? Can I create my own MOOC course? Can I create my own audio video content? That is first, right? Second is deep learning on digital transformation. So faculty actually going in deep and learning what cybersecurity is. Doing 5 to 6 courses from, say, an IBM or any other such provider. So one, universities are trying to enable their faculty to get the right set of capabilities. Second, with the students, every university is different. Some of the universities have defined, their main outcome as jobs for students. And so are they able to get the right jobs? I'm not saying jobs. I'm not saying, the jobs that are available out there, but the jobs that the students actually want to do. So whether it's being an entrepreneur, whether it's being a software engineer, whether it's being a business development professional, are they able to get to where they want with the choices of their companies? So then, working through the university curriculum, faculty, and industry content that we bring onto the platform, to be able to go to that path and say confidently that I know what it means to be a cybersecurity engineer. I have these skills, I can demonstrate it to you. So one is faculty development, second is student readiness. The third is also multidisciplinary and NEP, right? New education policy is a real thing. The government wants to implement it. And then a part of that is multidisciplinary learning. So if I am a student today, but I do want to, of engineering, but I do want to learn about, photography. I do want to learn about poetry. School or the university can't do everything. They have so many faculty, but they can't teach everything. So Coursera-like platforms are able to help students as well as faculty, cover the multidisciplinary aspect. Can I learn, say, liberal arts, from a school in the US? Can I actually learn, music from a Berkeley School of Music? So on and so forth, right? So these are 3 ways in which universities are leveraging a platform like Coursera.
Thank you so much, Pushkar. You're actually becoming an along. She's an author. She worked at ISB. And
an entrepreneur.
She's an entrepreneur herself who claims to come to VHub, but she hasn't come here in about 2 years. But jokes apart, in all this, now she's back at Geetham to pursue her first passion, which is education. So how are you actually doing this differently at Geetham to prepare students for the present, as you spoke about?
Sure.
Because future comes from the thing.
Present.
And the second thing is also, with Coursera being a biggest enabler, right? I think you guys use it quite a bit with the pandemic and so much more. How are you actually able to align the goals of the university with online platforms such as Coursera?
I think again it was a very interesting and hard journey for us at Geetham. We were also the traditional chalk and talk kind of school. And for us it was a huge transformation initiative to bring something that we were all on campus, offline, talking to students to go fully online. We did a lot of training, and of course we partnered with Coursera to bring their whole library of courses. But again, it's not just that you bring the content and magic will happen, right? Like the dean said, it's something that we have to work with actively. So we did a lot of small things that I believe really enabled us to leverage Coursera and the different digital technologies. One of the things that we did was we gave access to all our students as well as faculty members, and we have them mapped out within their courses, what courses in Coursera are relevant. You don't necessarily have to take everything, but you kind of identify topics and content that is of interest and that is relevant to the course that you're teaching, and then bring that into the classroom. And one of the things that we found was very, very successful is, again, like many of the hands went up when we talked about Coursera, right? You've all taken Coursera courses. Similarly, our students, if you look at it, we have got 250,000 courses that have been taken over the past 2 years. We have got over 500,000 hours of learning hours being put on the Coursera platform. But what we find successful is not just being online. It is actually about making it real. So what really helped us was when faculty acted as mentors for certain courses, and they said, hey, so I'll give you one very good example. This is from placements perspective. A group of students in our Bangalore campus were very interested in creating mobile apps. And so there is this React course and guided project around learning React. And of course, you can do step by step on the Coursera platform, and it nicely tells you how to create screens, how to create those input, right, on the mobile app and so on and so forth. But really what made it real is students actually, besides doing the project in the Coursera, they actually took up a project in the Geetham University. So they created for the placement team a mobile app where students could enter their credentials, they could change their resume. Employers, potential employers coming to Geetham could then see that live action happening. So there was a lot of, so that made it real for students. And all these students then who went for interviews said that this was so helpful because we could talk about our experience. And it was not just a tool that we learned to click and do things or code, but it's actually we could showcase what exactly we programmed and how we debugged it, how we overcame, problem solved some of the complications around it. That made it real for them. So that's one of the things that I would encourage you all as you consume different content online. It is to make it real for you, to make it applicable. The second thing that I believe Geetham did very nicely, and this is something that we have talked about, something beyond Coursera, is we actually introduced a course called entrepreneurial thinking or entrepreneurial mindset. And this we open to all first-year students, irrespective of whether you're a medical student, a pharmacy student, an engineering student, an architecture student. There's a basic fundamental course that's introduced in first year. And the beauty of this course is that you don't just sit with your cohort of engineering students. You actually sit with pharmacy students to take that course. And it's not that you will come out an entrepreneur after this, but you will wear the entrepreneurial thinking mindset and become a problem solver. So that's what was our goal with this course. And I believe this is another way to, like Deepti, what you were saying and others were saying about encouraging entrepreneurial thinking and bringing that problem solving culture into our education system.
Thank you, Rima. Now, do you have questions? Ready? Now, so some of you have woken up. That is good to see. But jokes apart, I would really like to have you guys ask questions. Do you have any questions? Anurag is leading the way.
So, take one for the team. So, as a student, what I would want to understand is, most of my time is spent from 9 to 4 in the college, where I'm heaped with a lot of classes and everything. What should I do after I go home or what is the minimal thing that I should be able to do that will actually change my trajectory? When I say trajectories, my normal trajectories come to college, get placed in 3rd or 4th year, then go out. So if I want to be special, if I want to make a name for myself and want to go into emerging technologies, not already emerged technologies, what is the minimum that I should do after I go home?
Take one shot at it. One suggestion would be, I think some of us have spoken about open to new experiences. And I think with the digital age now, there are a lot of platforms. So I really want to stress on, we learn a lot of things. But it's all theoretical, right? It doesn't become real for us. So I have experimented a lot, and there are a lot of now platforms where you can do things for real. So, okay, I've learned social media marketing, right? But unless I use it, it doesn't become real for me. Similarly, Kaggle has a lot of competitions, right? So I would encourage all students here to participate in something beyond your classroom. That should be one key thing that you should focus on in a semester. Yes, you're learning things, you're focusing on finishing the class assignment, preparing for tests. Try to think of something that you can do beyond the classroom. And there are a lot of platforms available to you. You don't need to go anywhere. It can be done online. You can collaborate with others. And Kaggle is an amazing, people who are interested in data science, and amazing platform where you get to solve real world problems. And that is just one of them. And I'm sure Deepthi can rattle off 100 other names.
To add to what Reema said, one of the things but also would like to suggest is that one of the unique things of being in, let's say, a Bangalore or a Hyderabad or a Gurgaon kind of a place is the number of startups that are looking for people exactly like you. So first, find out, like just do a quick research on the kind of startups or the entities that are around you, and just write to them and start with an unpaid internship at all. You can do it from home, you can do it at flexible time, whatever else. Because we may talk a lot about emerging technologies, whatever technology that you talk about, but unless you do it, as Pushkar very beautifully mentioned in his speech and also before, is that unless you do it, how will you know whether you enjoy it or not? So I think these are two opportunities that you already have at your hand. I think that can be a great start. And weekends, I would like to say that, 9 to 4 may be college, but there is so much on the phone that you can do. So people are busy. But you just need to look up from your phone, take initiative, research, and just get to work. I can tell you 100 startups who would love to have somebody like you working for them. So just get out there, take initiative, and get started. Anurag can only ask one question. So now he took one for the team, you take one for Anurag now.
Thank you for the insights that you have provided. These days it has become like, everything is changing, so we have to change. If I'm right, if you take about those last 2 years when we were into this COVID and all, there's some kind of disruption that has happened, especially to the education sector, I can say that. So is there anything that can bring back? Because, still we are in the transition period, we think that we are not back to normal. We say that this is new normal and all. So when it comes to the technological point of view, I understand. But when it comes to the mindset point of the students, as well as when our Vice Chancellor was talking about the faculty mindset and all. So what can we do to bring the behavioral change among the young techies?
I'll leave it for the educators.
I don't know the answer for that actually. Becoming normal. So let us expect, everything will become normal. But change that has been triggered, because of this pandemic and all, particularly in the online education, that has come to stay actually. So don't think that will go and so on. There are many models that are coming up, right? Coursera is there, right? There are so many other platforms that are coming up. So learning will continue to take place online. So how do you adopt that into the university? I think Geetam has done an excellent job actually. I see there's a director here, right? So these changes have to come within the university so that you adopt this, online. It is there actually. So you ask any student, actually, they are already on Coursera. They know very well actually what you are teaching, and then they probably refer to the various material and so on. That's why, the faculty job has become very challenging. So once you give a lecture, it's not just confined to your 60 students. Actually, they go and refer how well you have done compared to the top lecture that is there already. So it is an opportunity for all of us, excel actually. So it is a challenge for all of us, and we take it as a challenge, and we have to do very well. Otherwise, top job actually to satisfy the students actually. It's a nice thing that is happening. Okay, we all should welcome and embrace in our own way. It will not go. Don't think that after this pandemic is over, this online education will go and all that is. In fact, I would say that this globalizes the education. So it democratizes education. I mean to say, it gives access. It doesn't matter where you are. It gives access to all the material that is there. It's a wonderful thing that is happening. Right. Thank you.
If I may add to what Sir said. Sir, one of the ways of actually bringing students back is very simple. It's experiential learning. So we are in a place where there is a huge opportunity for exposure, going on field visits, making sure that the children or the students understand what are they preparing for. So there is a huge, I think they were here. So any of those companies would be glad to host you guys and have their team speak to you, all the students, about what they do. so that the students actually gain perspective, because 2 years has not just been hard on us, it's been worse on them actually, because they've lost valuable years of P2P learning, they've lost so much. So I would recommend a lot of experiential learning. There are many business chambers who are really looking to get students on the factory floor. They can be a part of any kind of exposure visit there is. And if you need any help, you can always ask ma'am or sir, or last reach out to us too. I think that is one good way. And sir, one more small submission is that I think faculty has a big role in bringing things back, not just in terms of students, but also building your own network. I think if you build your own network, that is when you can actually bring students back faster. Sir said that, you teach and those 60 kids go and talk about the feedback for you, right? But how do you build your own network that you can actually share notes like what Rima does, what you guys do? And I think that adds a lot of value, and complementary growth in bringing everything back to normal can actually happen. Yeah.
Maybe I'll just add one more thing. Very, very relevant question, and it's not easy. I mean, I've been part of the education, and actually, just to let everyone know, I started the first Coursera from ISB that was launched. I was part of that course, and even at a university like Indian School of Business, there was a lot of apprehensions about putting courses out on the MOOCs, right? So change is never easy. It is very difficult, but one of the things that I feel as Deepti said, the faculty has a very critical role to play. And I think we must communicate that to faculty. The role has changed a little bit, right? It's no longer the sage on the stage, as they say, but it's guide by the side. And I think the important thing is, you can take a Coursera course from a Stanford faculty, right? But the faculty is teaching from their environmental perspective. I think where I feel we need to do a lot of work is make that relevant for our students. Just to give you an example, there's a very nice course on computational thinking from University of Pennsylvania. Now there, the faculty is amazing, but they give a problem about mulching a garden. Now if I ask the students here, how many of you know this word mulching? So those examples in those courses, they are for a specific audience from a specific faculty perspective. I think we need to make it relevant for our students, for them to understand, right? Okay, this is the real problem that the faculty is talking about that we need to solve, right? So I think making it relevant and contextual to our environment, to our problems that we are seeking is very, very important, and is one of the critical roles that a faculty needs to play. The last thing I would also just mention is that, like in India, right, we had only initially 2 cars, Fiat and Ambassadors, at least my growing up time, and I know I'm putting an age to myself. But remember when we opened up the market, we have so many different cars, so we cannot protect the education sector. This is, as Sir said, it's here to stay. It's the way forward. Globalization it is. We need to establish ourselves just we did in the IT sector. We need to establish our foothold in there. Thank you.
You want to add something, Pushkar?
Talk about the mindset, right? I think mindset changes happen over time. So if you ask me, you're teaching through a chalk and board method. Tomorrow you are going to use a Coursera or any other video content, and then are going to facilitate the class, right? The university interactions, faculty said, that's like asking me to change my religion, right? I've been teaching in this way for the past 20 years. You are now asking me to do something very different. But I think hence, and that's very difficult and challenging, but I think the why is very important. Why should I do it? Is it absolutely necessary? Right? There is AI content, there is cybersecurity content. Can I create it as the industry changes? I cannot. If there is a tool available which can do that job for me and bring that into my classroom, I should think of digital technologies as my tools to teach and not something which will actually replace me. So that's, one. The second is, if you look at industry, now LinkedIn, essentially has already launched a program called as Skills First Hiring, right? So on LinkedIn, us companies actually get profiles based on skills, not the degree that you do. So if I have to hire for a digital marketer, I look at who has the right set of skills and I will only interview those. So how can I start talking about skills to my students and not subjects, right? That's the mindset change that the students also need to have. So I think the environment will, give you the why, and then you need to embrace and adapt it and use it as a tool to better yourself and the student and the outcome of your learning and teaching process. That would be my piece of advice.
Thank you. And with that, I think we'll end. But one of the biggest ways to be industry ready or anything ready is, number one, be present. be engaged and ask questions. So with that, we take leave, and thank you so much, Sudhir, for having us here, and thank you to all the panelists for being a wonderful panel. Thank you.
Thank you. A huge round of applause for this wonderful session and the moderation by Deepthi, Ms. Reema Gupta from Geetam, the Vice Chancellor of Anurag University, Pushkar Kelkar, and of course, Professor K. Sudhir Reddy. With this, we come to this end of this panel discussion.